with you. When you're talking about older children, if a child's 13 or 14, you can make a very credible case that's important to keep him up in his academic subjects, in his native language, while he's learning English. And that's obviously much less true for a 5- or 6-year-old child. Our initiative, again, provides that all children, if the parents really want bilingual education, can be placed in such a bilingual program. But the placement is much easier for children who are 10 years and older, because for older children, I think you can make a valid case for bilingual education. I don't know if I'd agree with it, but it's a much more valid case. Rick. But for a 5-year-old, I think they should be taught English right away.
First of all, I sort of feel like we're sitting around the table and what Allan was saying, it's like a group of men talking about the abortion issue. But that being said, that there's nobody who needs bilingual education here, I think one of the most impressive things I saw in my life was last year when the parents at the 9th Street School in downtown LA went on strike. And these are very humble people who probably don't get a lot of vacation days, and they took the time off and took their kids out of school for a couple of weeks in support of what you're saying. And as a card-carrying Democrat, I have to say, having in the past tried to hire people for telephone jobs and things like that in Los Angeles, it's hard to find young people who can speak, and let's not call it the King's English, but just basic American English clearly and correctly. And I am leaning very much in favor of something like this, just from personal experience. But when I think all of the data you can come up with, when you look at what the parents want, and that these people were willing to take whatever wage loss they took and hold up the LA Unified School District successfully to get their kids put into English classes in English. I think that was extraordinary, and that should be probably one of the most important things we look at.
And in fact, it was that incident which inspired this entire campaign. It's a direct outgrowth over that boycott, because
very
I think it's a very important statement by those parents where they really stand on this issue.
Absolutely.
I have several things I feel about this. One is that there is something to be said for choice. Another one is, I think the school system in California is in dire straits, and it reminds me a little bit of the busing situation that I recall in Boston, where they were busing poor black kids into poor Irish neighborhoods and just mixing poor systems. Nobody was getting much improvement in that. And I think even if you took kids out of a bilingual system, there's no guarantee we're going to get a better educational system. But I think my first and most long-standing response is, why are we doing this through initiative? I think, and I go back to what Allan said, we've gone through several election cycles of very divisive, painful separation of communities in California. And even though we didn't even have this at the national level now what's happening to Asian Americans because of the hearings in Washington is also very divisive and very hurtful. I trust your intentions. I have no doubt about your good intentions. And I have I share the kinds of feelings that they want their children to do this. But I think the initiative process, and again one after another, is absolutely deadly. And it's going to be very difficult to take it away from the kind of rumor-mongering and demagoguery that we have seen. And I think that it would be much more sensible and better public policy to do this through the legislative process than to go the initiative route, where it just becomes one person's money and message versus another person's.
That's a very valid point, but the problem is, in the case of California right now, the law governing bilingual education actually expired 10 years ago. And for 10 straight years, the state legislature has been fighting over what sort of law should take its place, and nothing has taken its place. Every year a number of bills are proposed. Every year they're defeated. And I think the end result is the most complete deadlock you can imagine, while 1.3 million children every year are not being taught English.
But Ron, with your resources, couldn't you mount a lobbying campaign?
That's right.
Well, to be honest, some of the organizations and individuals I've spoken to about this, and these are organizations that have tremendous clout in lobbying and on the institutional level, including some of the largest teachers' unions, which on educational issues have, obviously, tremendous strength. They say that, behind the scenes, they've been lobbying on this issue for 10 years now, and nothing really has happened.
Well, why are we lobbying on this issue? I guess that's what my question was to you. Why are we not, in fact, using our resources and our energies much more effectively to look at what the systemic response ought to be to strengthening public education in the state of California, when really it's an issue of an equalization of funding, access, equity, issues of adequacy, issues of recency of training, why isn't it a systemic look at the entire educational scene when we're talking about public education in the state of California?
California has tremendous problems in its public education system, only one of which is bilingual education. But it's the only one of which I think can be attacked directly. In other words, I don't know the solution to all these other problems. What sort of reform could be effectively put in place to solve them? And this is one issue, I think, which we can deal with very simply. Children should be taught English when they start school. And that's something that actually can and I think will be enacted.
In other words, you're not attacking the entire education bureaucracy,
Exactly.
just a little part of it. You might be successful at it.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
coming on and sharing this with us. And as you get closer to putting this on the ballot, we'll have you back on, actually do a special on this particular
Wonderful.
subject. Good to have you.
Thank you so much.
Viewers, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.